So my first question is for Unjoo. With creating a film about a feminist icon, Helen Reddy, what was your initial inspiration for this project?
Well, it was really about my memory of her, what her music meant to my mother and her friends when I was a young child, growing up in the 70s, and the way that her music would change the dynamics of who they were. At that time, most of the women were housewives and mothers, and suddenly the song would come on, and they would just be stronger and bolder and, you know, wind down the windows in their cars and, you know, sing really loudly. So when I met Helen, I just really wanted to try to understand, you know, what it was about her career. And I think I was just really amazed and surprised at what a huge career she'd had. I mean, she was one of the most highly paid entertainers in the world. She had 3 number 1 hits in a row, and nobody had done that since the Beatles. So that was pretty interesting to learn about. And also, I think what really struck me deeply was the personal journey that she went on in finding her independence and her own voice, and discovering what was important to her.
And all three of you are from Australia, and so is Helen Reddy. Were you all inspired or influenced by her music prior to coming onto this project?
I knew the song I Am Woman, but I'm very ashamed I didn't know that a lot of those other songs were her songs, and I didn't know a huge amount about her life. And I think that's what's really great and exciting about this film, is I hope that this film sort of is a part of teaching a group of young sort of the women of my generation about all the incredible things that Helen did, first of all, and also all of her amazing hits. Her songs are so great, and I still listen to them all the time.
I knew the song, of course, and I loved it. It was just something that I'd always grown up with and knew so well. And I realized that I didn't actually have any context for that song. I just knew the song, and it was this amazing anthemic song, and that's it. I didn't realize she was Australian, which is really crazy. And so happy that Unjoo wanted to make this movie, like, showing that. Like, I learned so much from doing this film, and it's really amazing to kind of see how these women paved the way to kind of where we are today, and speaking out and like empowering women. That was really incredible.
And even though I've spoken about, you know, what that song meant to me when I was growing up, I think what I really learned in making this movie is how a song like that comes out in a moment in history and a moment in time. And I learned so much about what was happening in the women's movement in the second wave of feminism, and how the fight for the ERA, you know, just never really quite got there, and how that still impacts us as women today.
Absolutely. And my next question is for Tilda and Danielle. With your preparation process, how much research did you guys do?
I did so much, as much as I could. I read her book. I studied her interviews. I could probably still do all of them verbatim. I'd sit there and copy her physicality and the way she spoke. She has a very particular rhythm to her voice, and also a very different sounding voice to me. So I worked with a voice coach, and I did some movement classes, and I sung every day for 6 weeks at least, and did lots of hair and makeup tests. That was a really big part of it. I really felt like we felt her together. There was fake chin, fake teeth, you know, 8 wigs, wrinkles, fat suits, like all of it. We sort of had everything going on. So I feel like that process was really a collaboration between sort of everyone on set, really. Even Dion, this amazing cinematographer, we sort of worked together to build her. Yeah.
I found that there isn't as much information about Lillian, but there was definitely enough. There was this book about her that I read, and it was actually incredibly detailed. So that was amazing. And there was a documentary. My dad had actually like already done a ton of research for me, because he was just happened to be really fascinated by her and by this entire story. So that was actually really helpful as well. So thanks, Dad. But there wasn't as much for the voice, which was a little harder, but I found a few clips. So you just kind of, it's like you get the information you can get, and then you kind of also, you talk to Unjoo, and we figure out how to go forward. And yeah.
And sort of my final question for all of you is, within the film, we also see the fight for the ERA and the second wave of feminism. What do you guys feel like feminists of this generation and activists of this generation can learn from the previous generation?
When we screened the film at Toronto last year at the film festival, and it was an amazing screening. There were 2,500 people there, and we had a standing ovation. But at the end of the screening, one of my favorite things that happened was a young, I think maybe she was 20 years old. She came up to me and said, thank you for making the film. And I said, well, you know, I'm glad you enjoyed it. But she said, but you know, you don't understand. I didn't come here because I know who Helen Reddy is. In fact, I only came because my mother wanted me to come. I didn't even want to see the movie. But I have learned so much about the women that came before me. And I didn't really realize all the work that had been done. And we don't go into it in great depth. It's a background for Helen's story. But I hope that this movie inspires younger women to go out and research it more fully and to really learn more about, you know, what happened at that time.
Yeah, I think it's a different time now, and people growing up now, we know our own experience and we hear stories, but that is what we're basing our feminism on, and like what we're fighting for, because we're like, look how bad it is now. And it's like, there was a whole other time where it was even worse, and there were people that were just fighting for small things. There was a time where people were fighting for the right to vote and to have an opinion. And it's so important to understand the context in our history, simply so that we can keep moving forward and we understand how far we've come and also how far we have to go.
And I think we still do have further to go. Like you were saying, the equal rights movement has still not been passed, which I find so absurd. And I think the one thing I really learned from learning about Helen was sort of the importance of still fighting and still standing up and finding a way to really use your voice and be confident enough to speak your own truth. And I think that we can all be inspired by Helen and women like that to sort of really lead the way into this, into 2020. And hopefully we can get that change soon, that past. I think that would be a really great thing to keep fighting for.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for creating such a liberating and empowering body of work, and enjoy your day.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.